Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This regular host, Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me is my fellow damaged synthetic backpack.
Adam Zeller, aka
That
RidgeTop.
one took you a moment there.
It's like, what is he coming up with today? But yeah, today we have an interview with some people. So I was at San Diego Comic-Con recently, and one of my favorite, or probably just my favorite thing there, was the Predator Badlands activation, the interactive experience. And one of the coolest parts of that interactive experience was when you get to talk to the father character Predator. And afterwards, we looked into it a bit and found out that there were two people that made that happen.
Well, three people, but we spoke to two of them.
Okay, right. So why don't you introduce them for us, Aaron?
So we got to talk to the voice of the ship's communication system and translation system, Jett LaFever, and the chap inside the Predator suit himself, Joel Hebner.
Yeah, and they gave us a really cool peek behind the curtain as to everything that went into this, all the prep work they had to do to understand this character, and then just go through the gauntlet of having to answer questions for people all day for the 4 days of Comic-Con. They were there, and I thought it was a really good discussion. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. You know, I think we tend to focus a lot on when we get to talk to, the people who make the films. But I think for a lot of fans, particularly fans who get to experience these kind of immersive experience, it's a whole other level of, well, not level, a whole other aspect of fandom experience. I never got to do Alien War, but it is such a part of British Alien fandom. I will always be excited to talk to somebody who was involved in it or somebody who has their own story of experiencing that event. And I imagine for like you, Adam, you got to be there, you got to see the skulls in front of you, you got to physically pick up that training mask from that sand pit and be there in this world. You got to go through the corridors of the Predator ship and hear Jett respond to your question and see Joel in front of you moving, physically see a Predator there. That's a whole different experience. And to actually get to speak to the people involved in this and have their experience of this experience, is really fascinating. And I really loved hearing hearing their insights about it.
Yeah, definitely. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Here's our discussion with Joel Hebner and Jett LaFever.
So before we start diving into your experiences at San Diego Comic-Con, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourselves, who are Joel Hebner and Jett LaFever, and what are you up to when you're not on a Predator ship?
Jett, after you, please.
Okay. Well, I am Jett LaFever. I actually am, when I'm not on the Predator ship, translating for the lovely Joel here. I am a musical theater kind of actress, singer. I specialize in kind of jazz singing, sultry kind of stuff. And I also am a makeup artist. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades in the industry of entertainment with voiceover and all that jazz. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. And she is an amazing voice of the father. I will say, we'll get into that later. My name is Joel Ezra Hebner. I've been a actor, stunt coordinator, producer in Hollywood for almost 25 years now. Classically trained actor. I'm a singer, dancer, do all the jazz. Let's see. In my free time, I like to walk my mini Shar-Pei. Her name is Lana. She's adorable. And I love this industry. I love the opportunity to interact and be a part of these incredible characters and affect people. And yeah, that's why I get into it.
And a question we all love to ask when we're joined by new voices on the podcast is about the first time our guests ever encountered the Predator. Do you remember the first time you came across our favorite extraterrestrial big game hunter? Was it through one of the films, the games, or pop culture? Why don't we start with you, Jett?
Sure. So I'm a huge horror nerd. Like, I mean, I'm a nerd of all types of pop culture, but horror is like my jam. And I remember being a kid, my mom was obsessed with horror. I was like 6 and she showed me The Exorcist and was like, this isn't real, but you're going to watch these because I like them. So we're watching them. So I watched all these horror movies and my dad was like super stereotypical Italian Jersey dad, like into action movies. So my mom was like, hey, there's a movie called Predator that we can watch together with mom and dad because it was like kind of sci-fi horror-esque and action. And I specifically remember being a kid and her convincing my dad to watch it. And the only reason he did is because Arnold was in it. And I remember my dad being like, well, if Arnold's in it, I guess it's got to be worth watching. And I just remember the first time seeing like his mandibles open, being like, this is the coolest movie. This guy's like a military badass. Am I allowed to say ass? A military badass.
You can
My,
swear,
la-
yes.
my language is far worse, don't you worry.
He's just so cool. He's like a military badass, but he's like creepy and he makes weird sounds. And I just remember being like, this is awesome. And then I just watched every single Predator since, and it's just been a huge part of my horror journey and my life. But it reminds me so much of my parents, which means a lot to me. So.
And for me, yeah, I grew up. My dad was a Marine, and so I grew up playing with GI Joes and in that era of like play with your military toys and whatnot. So when the Predator came out, it was one of those ones. It was Arnold. So I think Arnold back in the day instantly legitimized our parents to be like, it's an Arnold film. It's okay. Arnold he'll take care of you. And so, I mean, him in particular was one of the reasons I got into acting because I was like, he created these iconic characters, and fighting the Predator was one of those characters. And there were so many great one-liners in that movie. Just so many great moments. I think I was maybe, God, I want to say I must have been 6 or 7 when I first saw the original Predator. And again, as a GI Joe playing guy, I think I played with me and my brother were playing GI Joes, and you always want to have the Predator character then, so you're pretending this guy or this is, and then you're going around and hunting your GI Joes, which when I say it out loud as an adult, sort of seems sort of scarring, but no, it was that was really one of those moments, yeah, as a young GI Joe playing kid. Getting to play against the Predator was ideal, and then to see where the films came, like taking them to LA, and then as they evolved to fight, because we always wanted them to fight the Predator. As soon as they showed like the Easter egg, and I think the second one where they had the xenomorph skull in the background, you're like, oh man, the world depth, the world gets huge. And so it's been really incredible to see where they've come with this IP, and again, I can't say enough good stuff about Dan Trachtenberg, the director of Prey and Badlands. Like, what's amazing about him is I think it's important nowadays, especially, he loves the material, and I think you can tell that he really wants to expand and do right by the material. And I think that's really important now in this world of reimagining IP, as it were. That it's done with justice, and I think he's doing a great job of that. Sorry, that was long.
No, you are fine. So you've both seen Prey as well, then?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Enjoy Prey?
I did.
it was awesome.
I put it up there. It's like Predator. Then I think Prey and Predator 2 are on par for like my favorite of the second. And then you get into the others down the line. But I think those two are pretty on par for second best.
I just have a soft spot for AVP, even though it's not great.
Oh,
Because
yes. A fellow AVP lover. That's what I like to hear.
I just think it was like the first time you were like, yes, it's happening. It's happening.
It's true.
And it was like the par for the time. I mean, the 2000s, those types of movies. I love them.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
I miss the 2000s.
I'm one of the few defenders of the second AVP movie, but I also really like the first, and both of them are a bit divisive among fandom, I think. But it seems like we might be heading in that direction again. So
I
we will
think
see.
I wouldn't be shocked. No spoilers or anything, but I would not be shocked to see those two interacting shortly.
Yeah. Oh, shortly. Okay.
We're just waiting for the paparazzi shots of Dan and Fede out at dinner scheming together.
Oh, really? I love it. I love it.
So Predator is a franchise and a character that has been enduring the test of time for coming on 40 years now. What is it about the Predator that you think gives it this enduring appeal to science fiction, to horror, to film fans? Joel, why don't you lead us off on that one? Why does Predator stick with you after all this time?
That's a great question. I think it was the mystique of the character that really, they sort of set him apart. I mean, you really didn't know anything about the Predator. You didn't delve into the background. It was the audience was allowed to create their own sort of backstory about where these creatures come from, and we had a basic structure of their race, of their honor system, but we didn't know much about them, and I think that was really interesting, that we were allowed to play in. They were tall, dangerous, like kind of scary, but crazy badasses, and they took on like the toughest guys on every planet. Like that alone right there, if you're an interdimensional hunter, looking for the most badass of everything, I'm like, that instantly appeals to me, wanting to watch that movie. I'm like, yes, this is badass versus badass. And I think, they did a great job even in that Killer of Killers film. Killer of Killers was great, sort of to elaborate that ideal of like this race going out there searching for the ultimate challenge. And I think for me, that was always like, they looked cool as hell. Yeah, they're quiet. They have cool toys. You know what I mean? The invisibility thing. I mean, that became iconic. So when you saw that little blur, even if you see it out of the corner of your eye, you're like, oh my god, there's a predator. Like, but like, yeah, I think the character, the mystique behind it, the ideal of this is the baddest thing in the universe. And in the first couple films, we had, you had humanity sort of beating that. You had humanity sort of showing through, through using its mind, using its creativity to beat this ultimate bad guy. Now I think it's interesting. I think it'll be really interesting to see as they elaborate into the world of the Yancha. Like, I think that's going to be really exciting to sort of see where they go with that. And yeah, that was what it was for me. It was, again, the ultimate badass, like the Predator.
That's an alien quote slipping in there, but we'll allow it. Jet, how about yourself? Any thoughts on why the Predator sticks with you all this time?
I think, to piggyback off what Joel's saying, it's like there's nothing like the Predator. It's like this character came out, and it's like, okay, like other characters, that's cool. You have technology, but like ours is so advanced that nobody can understand it. And like that's cool that you have this one power, but I'm also invisible, and I also am like military level, like fighter. And I just think that over time, movies have tried to come up with characters similar. Like look at like Galaxy Quest, like the villain in that, and like other movies where they're like specifically like look like the Predator, or they're like along the same lines, where they have the invisibility or the mandibles or the whatever it may be, but nothing's ever reached the level of like the Predator is just like the coolest character that's ever been created. It's like you can't beat him. I don't know. It's like they just keep advancing them too. It's like you go on the ship, and now we see on the ship, it's like, oh shit, there's so much here that we have no idea what even this does. Like pretty soon they're gonna like blink and like destroy the world. Like I don't know. They're just cool.
And the design. I think the design for me always. I mean, the mask alone, because you didn't even see the Predator's face for the first, till the end.
Yeah.
The masks were always so awesome. I was a kid. I grew up playing, D&D and all the, And so to have like, I mean, the Predator mask and the armor was always something you wanted to emulate in all of your characters that you were creating, you know, because you're like, oh, this is really cool. And so yeah, I think that's where again for me, the design of the Predator was always something that I was like, oh man, that just always hit the mark really well.
They
Yeah,
just took the pieces of like really cool things throughout history, throughout characters, throughout iconic things, and like put it into one amalgamation of like perfect.
yeah, the designs and the elements that go into them, like the trophies and the history with that, like the pistol and whatever bones they got from wherever. It's one of the things we're always interested in and looking forward to with the next one, especially like how individualistic their designs can be.
Because it speaks to a lot of, I mean, it's just character design. I say it's just character design, but you know, it's little elements of things like that, like with Daddy Predator, you know, the horns. Already, it's like, what the fuck's that about? What does that denote? What history is that? And then you've got things like Greyback as well, where it's a simple thing like a bandana, or I can't remember if it's a bandana, but it's like he has a piece of clothing on his arm where it's got the symbol of one of the military units from, I think, Vietnam or something. And it's like, you can't even really see it, but that speaks to the history of him, his story, and his character so well. There's a lot of interesting elements of character design that just add to that mystique and that appeal.
Absolutely. And that was I think that's one of the fun things about watching, and great point. Like watching it, you find those little things, you finding those little details, and being like you said, the musket. You're like, oh my god, where did this come from? You know, so they've been around, and they've alluded to enough that it keeps you engaged to find out more about that. Which again is the fact that they're doing such great work nowadays in sort of expanding this IP is really exciting. Because not all IPs have been expanded in the same great manner. I won't. I'll just leave that there.
Well, and then the deeper you get into the lore of it, the more like flushed out it is, because you get into other IPs lore and you're like, there's like plot holes here, there's weird things here that doesn't really make sense. But like everything about the Predator makes sense, and it's so deep. Like being blooded with like xenomorph blood makes you a hunter, and like all these like you get deeper into it, and you're like, it's just so flushed out. It's like so well done.
But so Joel, you were saying about the mystique earlier. Does stuff like expanding it run the risk of perhaps removing that allure for you?
I would say yes. Whenever you expand, and there have been some there have been I don't want to get too. I'm like, ooh, where do I watch my mouth here? There are some other IPs that I grew up with that have been expanded, and it's sort of watered down the character, the ideal. You know, there were. But I think again, and this goes to and thank God for Dan, like this shows that this director really does like this IP. He really does love these characters. He loves developing this in a respectful way. Because I do agree that anytime that you're expanding in an IP, you run that risk, and especially nowadays, it's very easy to placate the audience with something that's very just generically palatable, without it being, you know, without there being some cool caveat, without it being a great detail, without, you know, where a lot of times now I think IP is just expanded upon for content's sake. And I think that's, you know, I think that's hurt a lot of IPs. Star Wars. Sorry,
I knew where you were going.
You know where I'm going with that. Like, you know, again, one of my favorite characters that I can also not mention. Things were expanded upon, and I was like, well, I don't really like this guy as much anymore. Like, I really lost that mystique, and I think that's where being able to even watch, you know, the first 22 minutes, to everybody listening, go see the movie. The first 22 minutes are so cool, and they just really, even as a guy who's very protective of that character and this ideal, they made me excited. And I think that's, as a fan, when you get excited about something like that, because again, yeah, you're right, Aaron. It's one of those things where you pull back the curtain and it could either be like, ah, or you could be like, oh, and this one, I was like, damn, okay, okay.
It seems like a very scary tightrope to walk because, on the alien side of things, we have that with Prometheus where a lot of people are like, ugh, with the curtain being pulled back. But the reaction to Badlands so far, to those first 15 minutes, whatever, has been very good.
Yeah, so far, everyone I've spoken with who was actually there has seen the footage, was blown away. Again, I was lucky. I got a chance while we were setting up and rehearsing. I got to watch it like 6 times. So I was like, yeah, no, I was geeking out like crazy there. And for me as an actor to play, to be able to portray one of those characters, it was important for me to actually see, because I needed to find the way he moves. I needed to find the way he walks. I needed to find the way he carries his sword. All these little details were things that when I was initially hired for the position, I knew of the IP obviously, but I didn't know exactly. I didn't know anything about the character. And then to be able to talk with the creators and learn more, it helped me. And then to see him in action was just awesome. That instantly sort of permeates you with that character. You feel the breathing. You're like, oh, this is how he walks. This is how he struts. He has no equal. The father is the ultimate. And I think with some body language and with Jett's amazing translations, I think we were able to really give that to the audience, in a lot of fun ways.
So tell me about Comic-Con then. Tell me about San Diego Comic-Con. How did you guys end up being that voice and that body? Jett, why don't you lead us off?
Sure. I work with an awesome company called Meyer to Meyer. I have done like some show. I just did Little Shop of Horrors as Audrey with them. And I did like a Halloween cabaret singing thing with them. And they also run a ton of activations for Comic-Con. They also ran the Alien activation. And the year before they did like the Dune Buggy and the other Alien Romulus stuff. They do all that kind of thing at Comic-Con. So they emailed me and were like, hey, we have a kind of weird thing. Like, we know you're good. We love, we know you love horror. We don't really know if you have any improv skills or can be like funny, but we want to, the creative team wants to hear you do like a British AI voice. Cause I know you've done voiceover. Can you send us a voiceover over just basically saying these like 3 sentences they sent me? And I was like, okay. So I recorded in my little closet, upstairs, and I sent it to them and they were like, oh, we love it. We love it. And that's pretty much all I learned. I didn't really, the improv I was like, what's improv if I'm just announcing? I didn't really know much because they didn't really know much, I don't think yet. Then I got there and they were like, here you go, sink or swim. You're going to be improvising the entire thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, basically, Joel will come out. You will be like, people will think it's a recording. Because basically me just being like, welcome aboard this Yacha spacecraft, like up above. And you're like, oh, this is so cool. And then I'm like, please ask him a question. And if they don't answer, I'll be like, you in the tie-dye Predator shirt, you don't have a response. You have nothing to ask him. You've never seen a Yacha before and you have no questions for him. So they're like, oh shit, like what? That's not, somebody can see me wearing tie-dye? Like, so it was quite a ride.
It was epic. I gotta just say, she was amazing. Jett was. We had 2 voices, and the male. I always say the male was very friendly. Jett was my spirit animal because Jett was saying everything that as the father. She just got like, yeah. She read the room really well, and I was very blessed to have both Jett and the other voice actor there. They were both excellent, but Jett had some spice to her comments when she came in. Like, it was almost like half roasting So it really worked out well. It kept the audience flowing. And, and I think people reacted really well. I think people like to be sort of snapped back into place, especially at Comic-Con. They feel the need to sort of extend their reach. How much can I push this boundary?
Yeah, poke the
And-
bear.
yeah. Oh, we got the bear poked many times in that 4 days.
And
But
then
yeah,
getting territorial, people were trying to like touch him, so I was like getting aggressive over the like, you Earth Prime humans have no right to touch my master. Step away, like, I will. Well, like they would put their hands out. I'm like, I will zap your hands off in the blink of an, just
it was great. It was great. No, Jet, yeah, the both of the voice actors are phenomenal. But Jet, yeah, you kept a great flow, and we were very stoked to be able to work with both of you. Yeah, no, it was awesome.
That's funny. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
were you taking turns with another bloke so that you're all getting breaks then?
Joel didn't switch up with anybody. He just had a specific schedule because that costume is crazy. And for him to be in that all day is crazy. I was switching off with another voice actor. He was very much, he's an amazing voice actor. His voice was like, you would never know it wasn't an automated system.
Excellent.
He just very much was more like less. I am a nerd. I love Comic-Con. I love things like that. So for me, I want to be a part of it. It's like I wanted to keep people feeling like they waited in an hour-long line, like they got the second to be interacted with.
Mhm.
So it was just a very different experience. Like Tanner was amazing at responding, like with scientific answers, with like he was very sweet and very kind, and people loved it.
Right.
I was a totally different. It was just like trying to give a little bit different energy too for people that maybe came through twice and got a different experience. We just wanted to make sure that everybody had, and people just ask silly questions that like you have to respond to in a silly manner. I mean, come on.
And they are talking to a predator, so everybody's got those questions. I think.
Yeah. Don't worry, we're asking about the interesting ones later. Well, the memorable ones, should I say. How about you, Joel? How did you end up in that Predator suit? What's your story?
I've been doing I've been an actor out here for almost 25 years. I do a lot of I'm a large man, so I'm actually 6'5". I've been doing creature work with a number of companies out here for almost 20 years. And I was actually on another job, and I received a call. They were like, "We might have something for you," and then they connected me with the two young ladies who were in charge of casting this. We had a conversation, and I have a little funny story. So they were like, "All right, it's down between you and another guy." And us actor minds, we're always like, "Oh, this job," they told me what it was, and being who I was like, "Look, whatever it takes, I'll do it." Like pay cuts, sure, do it. You want to throw me in there 30 hours a day? Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm a predator. Come on. And so we were talking, and everything is going really well. And then they're like, "All right, well, you'll hear from us tomorrow." And so we actors are always like, we're our own worst enemies 99% of the time. So like it was that day, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my wife, and I'm waiting, and I'm like, okay, we're going to get the email. They're going to get that email. It's going to happen. All day I wait. There's nothing. And so night comes. Nothing still. It's like 11 o'clock. I go to bed at 9. There's like 11 o'clock. I'm waking up to check my phone. I'm like, oh God, this is coming in. Nothing. And so I was like super anxious all night long. I like couldn't sleep. I was like looking at my phone. And then the next day they called me in the middle of the day and formally offered it to me. And there was just like, again, it's always the roles that you really want that you're the most anxious for. It's like a lot of these other roles I can be like, oh, audition done, that's out of my mind. This one I was like, oh God, I really want to do this. I really want to be the predator, and so when they got it, or when they called me, I was just blown away, and I went and we started doing fittings, I think that week. And I mean, this suit it was initially created by Alex Gillis and Weta, and then the suit that I wore was actually a collaboration between Weta and a company called CCE. which are amazing. They work here in Los Angeles. They do great suits. I work with them all the time. But yeah, that was pretty much it was like, you might be a predator. And then, it was like, wait for 3 days and let the anxiety build and build and build. And then when they finally said it, I was just blown away, and super excited. And then the process begins of creating the suit. And each suit, like I said, I've done them for 20 some years. Each suit is a totally different beast. It carries itself different. It breathes different. You have to wear it different. And this one was this one was no joke. This was a very challenging suit.
So you had done suit work before, like different creatures and different characters and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. I started off. God, actually, the first role of my career was 25 years ago. I played Frankenstein in a sci-fi network. To age myself, there used to be a network called the Sci-Fi Network, and they played they played mid-budget movies, we'll say. And I played Frankenstein in a film called Frankenstein Reborn. And through that company, I started actually doing a lot of suit work with them, which got me into stunts, which got me into stunt coordinating. It's amazing when I look back at sort of the way taking a job sort of led me down a totally different career path. And I was always a physical guy. I played football. I played sports growing up. So being able to do a lot of this suit work is very physically challenging. I think it's physically and mentally, because not many people can deal with the claustrophobia of being encased in a suit. For like this one, we were in for, I think sometimes we would take brief breaks, but more or less I was in that suit for almost 9 hours a day, and that's, even in film standards, that's unheard of. No, very, very, very rare when you're on a film set are you on that long. Normally it's like you get made up, you do your setup, you shoot your shots, and then you're out while they break it down again and reset and everything else. So like even on a 12-hour film day, you might actually only be in the suit for 4, maybe 5 hours total. This one was a solid 7 to 9 hours every day of this suit. And yeah, while it was incredibly challenging, I had an amazing team. My handlers were absolutely incredible. Melissa and Drew, I can't ask for better people. But they took care of me, and I always say, just like with film and everything, these jobs are all such a team effort. Like I couldn't have done what I did if I didn't have Jett and Tanner, creating this character, helping me create this character. And I'm just incredibly grateful. And again, Drew and Melissa, my handlers, were so good. Mindy and Selena, the experiential girls, were absolutely just dreams to work with. And I think a lot of people, going back to what Jett said, a lot of people, I don't think even the people who were throwing this thing or putting this thing on initially really even knew the scope of how it would evolve. Because I think there's the ideal, what we think is going to happen, and then when we're in live action and everything goes out the window, and they're like, okay, well, it's jazz, baby, so let's improvise and let's have some fun. And
what's the quote? Make the plan, throw away the plan.
100%.
Something to that effect. I can't remember what it is, but yeah,
that was it. And again, thank God, thankfully we had such a great team there. I always say, after these long days, you can either create your worst enemies or your best friends. And I think we, at the end of this thing, we all came out like incredibly close. Like we were instant friends. It's almost like, it's an amazing war, but it's almost like going to war with a group of people. You get to see how people react in high stress situations, who they really are, and that brings out sometimes the best and worst in people. And we were all really lucky to have the best of people.
I do have to say, the first time that I saw Joel walk out, because like we didn't really meet each other very
No.
I think before we started.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't even think we knew what each other looked like. Like one of my favorite memories is walking through your room and then talking to you guys, and all of you being like, wait, you're not British? Like, so surprised that I wasn't actually British. But I do remember the first time you walked out in the suit, I was like almost in tears. Like, it was like the coolest. And the way that you moved, like, I think we were very in sync with the like animatronic AI like people thought we were, and then, like, that was, like, our bit, but we didn't even discuss it, and then the second that, like, we started, it was like, "Oh, no, just kidding, we're not that," and people were like, the way that you moved, I just remember being like, if I would've walked in here, I would be hysterically crying, just, like, tears of joy, like, I've wanted to see this my whole life, like, it was amazing to watch, and to, like, just see through my little camera in my little booth watching you, like, it was the coolest experience ever.
Yeah, as a fan, it blew me away. I've been to a few of these activations, and a lot of times I get really into like capturing media, like videos and photos. And my friends got a little ahead of me while I was taking pictures of like the weapons in the cases and stuff. And my friend comes back and he's like, "There's something really cool here. You need to like move it along and get to the next room." And I turn the corner and I see the Predator there and just looking incredible. And then I was prompted to like ask a question. And I was like, wait, what? Like this just blows my mind here. And I had never like I've seen life-size like displays and reproductions of Predator characters, and it's always cool to see. The only time I've ever seen them really in motion, I guess, would be the Halloween Horror Nights events, because
Mhm.
Universal did some AVP mazes 2014, 2015. But to see it like to this level where it looked like it was just ripped straight from the movie was quite something. So with this suit, you said this was custom created for you, like custom fitted. I assume these weren't from the movies, but they were or from Badlands, but they were like molds from Badlands, and they recreated that suit
Uh,
just for this, right?
it was a collaboration. So a lot of it, there was actually some from the film. Like my mask and my bracers were actually they were the stunt bracers from the actual film. So those were able to come. We got sent, or I'm sorry, CCE got sent about half of the suit from Weta. And so CCE had already started creating the suits. Yeah, but you're right. These suits, because they are so detailed, they are created, specifically for my body. And so once they started doing that, they sort of collaborated with Weta on a couple pieces that would not have been able to be made in the time they were given. So it was sort of a amalgamation of the stunt suit from the actual movie, and then CCE actually creating an actual suit for me. So yeah, it was again really cool. Like it was my first time wearing or even pieces of a Weta costume, and so really cool to see how they do their stuff. Super detailed, amazing work. But yeah, it was cool to see both of those teams collaborate on the suit, and I think that's why it came out so well.
You got a much different experience to a lot of other people who have done promotional stuff like that. Then, because like with Covenant, I think with some of the AVPs, things like that, they just sort of sent the stunt suit, and it was tough shit. You're gonna have to fit in this. So
Yeah.
just even having that little bit of that customization for you, that's
Well, I think
I feel like a little bit of a luxury for
it,
these
no,
kind
it,
of things.
it 1,000%. As a guy who's worn many, I mean, like I said, I've worn many costumes over the years, and yes, without them being custom, they can be incredibly challenging, even more challenging than they already are. I was very blessed that I'd worked with CCE before, so they had life casts of me. They were able to start fabricating even before they received a lot of the Weta stuff. So it was a good base. They built it at least onto my structure. And then, like I said, I can't express again how amazing Drew and Melissa, my handlers from CCE, were. Because as I was saying earlier, each of these suits are a very different beast. They breathe different, and as you move in them, as you interact with things, you find out, we'll say, challenges to the suit. What works in this situation, and what is making it slightly more difficult. And they both were amazing at being able to look at this and make on the fly adjustments to the suit, so that way I was able to wear it for as long as I was. Because this suit weighed, I think it came out to almost 105 pounds total. So it was not an easy suit, to wear for that long of time.
Were there any like cooling tech built into the suit, or was it just get through it?
We did have we did have a cooling vest set up with it. Funny thing about some of these suits, so when you're in them, a lot of them are foam latex, and they encase your whole body. Now, if you're a sweater like I am, sometimes if your internal temperature cannot mirror your external temperature. So you can sweat, and then if it's too cool in a room or you get a chill, then you get like a bone chill. And I actually had that once. I was doing a suit for Orangina, the orange drink. I was the muscle bear for one of their campaigns. And so I'm playing paddleball out here on Venice Beach in this giant, muscle bear suit. And after about an hour or two, I was sweating in it, and I actually ended up getting a chill. And it was like 80 degrees out, but you get a chill and you're stuck in. And there's photos of me under like Fernie pads, in this giant muscle bear suit. So we were cautious about that. Again, they did bring the ability to keep me cool, but a lot of times we didn't use it just because they were really good about keeping the temperature of the actual installation very chill for me, very, very cold for me, which I appreciated. And I think a lot of the people who are waiting out in the 4 to 6 hour line, I think they appreciated it as well.
I was in my little cubby every day. I was so hot outside, but I came in like a sweater and I brought my blanket, and I'm like sitting there with my blanket around me, like talking into this mic, because I'm like, I would rather be cold. I'm not complaining, but like it was just so funny
Absolutely.
I'm like walking into work with like all this parka gear, and it's like super hot outside.
Yeah, they did a good job of looking out for me. Again, the team that we had, it made this job a lot more bearable, or yeah, bearable's the wrong word, a lot more doable. And that was the thing is when we initially got into it, you push it like any suit. You get in, you push it to your level, and you're like, okay, I can wear this thing, comfortably without taking off the mask for about an hour until my brain starts to implode. And then you were like, all right, I need to disconnect for about 15 minutes. But yeah, no, they were great. They were great, and they were very accommodating for me in the suit.
And Jett, if you can say this, I was curious where exactly your like box was in relation to the Predator, like so you could see the people that were in the room, I assume.
So basically we had one camera set up pointing down, like, so basically I could only see the back of your guys' heads.
Oh, okay.
So if like the screen is like was here, Joel's on this side, I was in this little wall piece right here.
Okay, so kind of the back corner then.
I was right behind you in the little back corner.
Oh, okay.
Aha, Hollywood magic.
That's cool.
It's a little camera. And there was one mic, which is why I had to keep consistently being like, speak up, human, I don't speak mumble. Like, because and if people would talk over or have a higher frequency, some people's voice pitches, I was like, because I just picked up, it was interesting, like the way the room was kind of insulated. It picked up random frequencies or random words or voices. And sometimes I was like, whoa. And then other times I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, and then we also had like an atmospheric sound from the spaceship, which made it very challenging too, because you'd be, and I'd be trying to like help coax the voice a little higher so Jett could hear and like react, but we had like space going on where like
and there were like really like really loud, and you were like, oh, and then it would turn back down, and then it would be like, okay, talk now, or people would be in the bar screaming, and I only can hear screaming and wooing. I'm like, I have no idea.
So just to ask about the technicalities of this then, one of the big additions that Predator Badlands is making to the lore is this fully developed Predator language. You got to hear in quotation marks Daddy Predator speaking the language at the experience. So now we're assuming that neither of you speed learned Yautja for San Diego Comic Con. So how did that work? Were they recordings, and then Jett, you were just saying whatever over them?
So depending on what people, so when people ask like actual real questions, like questions of the lore, questions that were like worth responding to for Joel, for like if you're gonna talk to the father Yautja, like you need to ask a real question. I would answer. That's why they wanted somebody with a background who knew Predator, who knew like was a big horror kind of pop culture person, because I knew a lot of information about Predator. So I know a lot of the lore. So people would ask questions. I would teach them about being blooded. I would teach them about fighting xenomorphs. I would respond. And a lot of my Yautja responses had, it's interesting, a lot of the words, some of them he would say in English. So I listened to all of the responses, and some of them he would say like father, or he would say whatever it may be. I would play that response so it correlated with what I was saying in response to Joel. So we were in sync.
Were you aware of like the timings as well? So like you weren't giving a really long Predator response and then just a couple of
I learned
English.
I learned them very quickly, because some of them he'd take pauses and then I would go to start and then he would start talking and I was like, oh, my master has more to say. Sorry, continue. But I eventually learned. There was like 30 responses. So I learned the ones to not click unless I had like an actual really long like lore response question to answer.
Did you say 30 there? Sorry.
30, yeah.
So it was a good variety then.
Mm-hmm.
So you can answer questions about xenomorphs then. That's interesting. That makes me wish I would have asked
Yeah.
some of those. That's cool. No, I remember my friends and I were going through the alien activation, and one of them had the Predator mask we got from Hall H, and he was just hanging on to it. And the Prodigy Corporation guy started scanning the mask, and he was like, "It's a fake." So it was funny how they were like,
the only true mask is right.
Oh, nice.
Here.
Yeah. You got one too.
I never got one.
What?
I know. I wanted one so bad. They're so cool.
We'll talk, Jett. We'll talk. No, it was excellent. And by day 3, I feel like I spoke as much Yanta as I do Spanish. So it was pretty nice. I got to know a bit of the language, which again helped for me. Like, I mean, by day 2, day 3, like what Jett was saying, you start to learn sort of the patterns, and it allows me, even as a performer, like if somebody did have a really cool lore question, I could interact a little bit more. It wasn't just,
you could gesture because you knew the phrase.
Yeah, and I could actually, and I tried to bring some depth and some character to this guy, and for the audience, because if they're asking about, where's my greatest hunt, or like what was some of the, there were some really good, there were some not good questions, and there were some great questions, and it was really fun to be able to, even with the limited amount of we were able to interact, it was really fun to be able to play in that sandbox.
I think also the way that the responses were recorded was like, so you could just feel like, I didn't obviously play, Joel would know more than me, but I could just feel his responses were like so passion driven, but the way he talks was so like disciplined and so military, but still so like proud to be who he was. And like just like the way that, I don't know, the way that the Yautja was spoken was like you could feel like what his energy was. You could feel his character. And I just thought it was really awesome the way that we have no idea what they're saying. Right. But like for Joel, like he could act it. I'm like, and I could formulate what to respond with by like feeling what he was kind of emoting.
Yeah.
So, unlike a lot of promotional experiences, I mean, you were interacting directly with fans who were asking you questions. And I remember I asked you, do you have any sons? Which was a plot element that hadn't been clarified online, and you were able to answer and clear it up. So, I mean, you had no one from 20th Century to run approvals through. So we were just curious, like, what kind of flexibility did you have in your responses, Jett? I mean, how did you know what you were allowed to reveal, and what prep was there so that you like understood the character?
Sure. So like Joel and I both signed NDAs, and they gave me specifics of the plot so basically I met with, for like 20 minutes. Me and one of the creators who wrote the script out for me to read. And he basically was like, okay, so this is the basic plot that they can know, which is that Joel is playing father. That's the only name they need to know him by.
Mhm.
And he has two sons. They're on his older son's ship. So you can tell them that this is not Joel's ship, but this is his son's. You can tell them that he's only proud of one of his sons and he only claims one because the other son is a runt and he doesn't want anything to do with him. And that's all you can tell them. So you happen to ask one of the questions that I was allowed to respond to.
Adam, yeah, you were this close to being you're not allowed to answer that, pathetic
Yeah.
human. Now move on.
Yeah.
I mean, for how imposing the big daddy predator was, I thought he was very nice to us puny humans, I guess.
Well, you must ask the right question then.
So we're sure you had some absolutely wild and wonderful conversations with fans coming through that experience. So, a week, 2 weeks on, however long it's been, what was the most memorable encounter or interesting question that you guys got during that? If anything sticks out in your mind.
There was a lot of them.
Yeah, I'll let you answer first, Jett. I know mine.
There are so many. But the most interesting thing is that I had the same person come through every day, every single day at the same exact time and ask me the same exact question. And it was the stupidest question. Every day, the same person, he would wear the same hat, the same backpack, would walk right up, whether Joel was there or not. And he would be like, computer, will I get laid? Every single day. And every day I would be like, the answer is still no, move on.
Okay, now given where the Predator fandom is sort of an element of the Predator fandom that has sort of come out of the woodworks recently, I now have to ask you this follow-up. A bloke or a girl?
It was a boy.
Okay.
I did have a lot of women ask if they could call him daddy, and I said, that's disrespectful. Only certain people are allowed to do that. You will call him father and nothing else.
Yeah, I had actually forgotten about that element. But yes, there were I was propositioned a couple times with some very
yeah.
Yes, there were some of these ladies have some dad issues. I'm just gonna say, and me being the father was played right into them. Personally, my favorite experience, we had some amazing cosplayers come in. We had two in particular that showed up in full Predator garb. And that for me, and Jett, I have actually video of you interacting, yeah, like you commentating as the interaction between me and one of these other predators. That was so fun because these were amazing suits. Like, I mean, they were straight up almost movie level suits that these guys had been walking around out there, standing in line out there. And so it kind of felt like, all right, it was sort of like, I don't know. I loved it because I got a chance to be like, all right, you earned it. Like there was like a respect thing, when me as the father can give, when we can, like touch bracers or something with another yancha, you really, that was really exciting for me. And I think those moments, we have a couple great photos of me with some of these other predators where that was really cool. I forgot about the girl thing though. There were some girls who were they need Jesus.
Yeah.
Those girls need Jesus. But yeah,
it was cute though, like with little kids also.
The little kids were great.
A lot of little boys who would walk up to Joel and like ask questions, and then I would like be like, I would be nice because they were very sweet and they're cute little kids. But just to see, like, I can only imagine from Joel seeing like their face, just their body language from like the back of them, just like the fear, but like the excitement to like see a, I mean, I'm 5'4". Joel towers over me. I can't imagine being a little kid and looking up and being like, holy cow, like that's a real predator. Like it was so cool to see. And for the actual fans, it was awesome to
Yeah.
just like see them be like, holy shit, that's a fucking predator, like it was just so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. The reactions as people crossed the threshold into my room. Some people were like, they're like a couple people were like, ah! They like backed up against the wall. Their like knees went out, and again, and all. I mean, for me, all that does is you just that just plays up mine where I'm like, I'm more imposing now. But the kids, yeah, the kids were super cool, man, and to see them come up in that mixture, like Jett said, of fear and excitement. And like you try to interact a little different with them than I would most of the other people. Like you try to give like a dab or something like that with like the kids, and to see them, like I remember there was one little boy who like he was afraid at first, and I like reached down and I gave we like did the knuckles thing, and he instantly was like, and that was like again my big predator heart was suddenly warmed by that. And yeah, and like Jess said, the fans, the people who actually were there and authentically were like excited about this, that was so cool. And it things like that were the things that allowed me to stay in that suit longer. Like there were a couple times where we had a set time after like day 1 or 2 where we were like, all right, my handlers, as soon as they zip me in and bolt me in like a Frankenstein monster, they'd be like, all right, the timer is on. You got X amount of time until we take your break. And and there were a couple times where I was like, no, we got a great flow. Like,
Yeah.
let's keep going, because you're feeding off the audience, and that allowed me to do my job longer.
You could like feel, I mean, for me at least, I could feel the energy of like the rooms that were like people that just wanted to get to the bar. So that's why I was like, okay, keep going. You clearly like I'm not gonna waste people who waited in line to really see Joel. I'm not gonna waste their time because you want to stand in here and ask silly questions or just like text on your phone. I don't know. It was weird. There was some energy that was very like, I don't care that the predator's here.
Right.
So I was very much felt that and was like, hey, move along, which is why I was a little sassier to most those groups. But then when people really cared, it was like, you can stay in there as long as you want because like you're genuinely here for the experience.
Yeah.
And you could just feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of the fans, I have a couple questions from 2 who were with me as I went through the experience. Our new staffer, Hunter, would like to know what you can tell us about your first impressions of the experience walking through. I mean, was there a guide from Disney explaining to you what people are going to be experiencing there? Did you get to be immersed in this world of Predator Badlands yourselves like we would later?
Go ahead, Joel. You go first.
I didn't get much. For me, it was really, we had done our walkthroughs initially, but it's sort of behind the scenes stuff, and I think Jett and I both as actors, we're used to this. We're used to being able to put the veil on where it's like, okay, you're walking and this is obviously a sound stage, but now, now we're on a spaceship. And I think that was something that we were able to do. I think I more got the vibe from the audience than even being in the room and everything. And for me, it was also like the suit. I mean, just the suit. Putting on the suit, walking. As soon as I put on that suit, you feel, it's just like the clothes make the man. And it's the same way with any of these costumes. So when you put that Predator outfit on, you are immersed in the Predator because that's who you are. And so that was really good for me. The installation really didn't. I mean, it was beautiful and it was incredibly well done, but I think just being in the suit for me was what did it. That's what really. Because so it took us initially it would take us about an hour, 45 minutes to put the suit on. We got it down to around 30 minutes where it took to put the suit on fully. But as a performer, that's the time that I use to zone in, because I'm like, like I said, as you're getting sealed up in this medieval torture device that is known as a creature suit, as the layers get put on, you're feeling that weight. And I think that's what helps me create that character and immerse into that character. But yeah, that's how. I mean, the suit was really, and then yeah, the stuff is super cool. I mean, because they had some amazing props there. But I think for me, the suit is what instantly put me in the zone.
How about you, Jett? Did they say this is the spaceship that you're going to be the voice of and give you the tour?
I didn't go. I don't think I went through the activation at all. I only went through one time through the bar to go to the bathroom because there was like chaos happening around Joel's exit for me one time. So I jumped out of my little cubby and ran through the bar, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. But I came in through the back, and they showed me, they were like, Kate, he's going to stand there. You're going to go in there. There's going to be your translation of Yacha up on that screen. And that was it. And then somebody asked me about a T-Rex skull. I was like, hold on. I love dinosaurs more than anything. There's a T-Rex skull out there as a trophy, and I didn't know that. I was like, wait, what? And then I saw a video of it and was like, wait, it looks awesome. Yeah. But I agree with Joel. Like, for me, it was just like seeing him come out. I was like, this is crazy. This is awesome. And then just that energy of like, I don't know, as an actor also, I was like being immersed in my little tiny space, my little dark dungeon cubby was very like, very much worked for me too, as far as like, I am just here as a voice to help him. I am like just in my own little world, my own little space, and I don't really exist. So it kind of helped me to like be removed from everything and just only see him. It kind of made it more realistic for me. Like nobody knew what I looked like. When I went out to go to the bathroom, no one had any idea it was me. You know, it's like I'm walking by people and they're like, man, that computer system is like I hear them talking about me and I'm like, just like walking by.
That was always great. Where my holding was actually right past the room. And yeah, I would hear when I was on break, I'd hear people talking about the computer that I mean, I think half of the fun for a lot of those people was coming in, and even if I wasn't there, asking the computer questions. You know, I think Tanner and Jett did a great job of keeping. I mean, we would just sit there in the back while I was on my break and just crack up at the interaction between the communication system and the audience. That was it. That was they were just doing such a great job. And again, it there were multiple times that we were like, all right, that was a great response. Let's put the mask on and get back out there. Like.
And I was so impressed too by they built all this just into a bar at the Hard Rock Hotel. Like when I first heard about that, I was like, is it just like a bar with some green lights and they have some props on display or something? But I mean, you wouldn't have known it was a bar until you actually get to the bar at the end. But
yeah, they did do. I mean, the setup and the what they did was amazing. And I mean, the props with the explosive seed pods or whatever, with the darts that flew out. Like,
I don't even know. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I think someone hit you with water too. There were these, if you've seen the trailer, these plants that had like these spikes, and before you get to the bar at the end, they just had this like brush with all these plants, and if you got too close to them, these foam darts would just shoot out and hit you. And they look like little spikes too.
They look great. Yeah, I think did you get hit by one, Adam? Were you?
Yeah,
you did.
I got hit by a couple, and I may have sneaked one home.
All right.
But our friend and collaborator, Mike Monahan, who was also there with me, wanted to ask a question about the lower chin, actually. It looked like it was kind of moving independently, almost like the throat was vocalizing under the mask. Was this an actual like mask element, or was it just kind of moving naturally under the mask?
No, that was actually created that way. So we wanted it to actually, and I was actually doing a lot of that because I wanted the response. I wanted the suit to show the response, and I wanted there to actually be, when the Yancha was talking, I spoke, or was at least miming the words, because I wanted there to be that movement. Yeah, that was something I played with a little bit, and I think we tried a couple different things, But the way I hope the suit read well with that. But I think it did. I think it showed a little bit more. That was one of the things, because we had a lot of people as they would come through they were second guessing. I heard so many times like, "There's no way that's a real guy.
Yeah.
No way that's a real guy." And so to be able to play with that, those little things were things that took me out of animatronic
Yeah.
leader, and made it real, made him a breathing, living creature. And so yeah, that was actually good eyes on your guy there. But yeah, that was a choice there that we made. So actually, you could see the Yanta move.
So there was a little mechanical device in the throat or something that would move while you were
Me talking.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
I would actually move. So I would actually pantomime the words. So especially by like day 2, I had learned. That's where I'm like, I've actually learned like half of these responses. I had heard them so much, so I sort of knew what was coming next, and I would try to um, give those vocals life. And
So you would like accentuate your chin to move, so his face would kind of move under the mask a little bit.
correct, yeah. As the mask sealed down, we wanted that to read underneath the beard, which is something again hasn't been done with the Predator before. Was the actual facial hair. I don't know.
That's nice.
I'm like,
That's a nice performance touch.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you very much. Yeah, again, it was awesome to work with. And the suit, it took a little while, and I think we really dialed it in to where people really seem to enjoy it. So I think that was, it's just an honor to be a part of that sort of thing. And I'm glad
So
it all went well.
Joel, you were up front and center on Hall H after this, in front of thousands of eager Predator fans. Tell us about that moment. Tell us about that experience, and did you both also get to see any of that footage?
I saw a lot. I'm like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. I'm like, you guys get to see or on the podcast. No, I mean, that was one of the most incredible experiences of my career. There are moments that you can pinpoint that you're like, man, this is why I do that. And first of all, I got to introduce Kevin Smith, which was a huge honor. I grew up with Kevin Smith. I'm a huge dork. I love him. He loves comic books. He loves IP like this. But then to walk out in front of 6,500 people and just have the audience go crazy. I remember feeling the floor vibrate as I was walking out there, and yeah, it was just an incredible experience. I joke that I floated off stage, but there's apparently footage of me stalking, so that wasn't really there, but it was such a high, like unlike anything else. And it was my first time in Hall H. So to be able to, have my first time in Hall H, something so iconic, I'm just truly, truly honored to be a part of that. And again, to meet all the people, to meet the cast, and Elle was amazing, and Dan was great, and yeah, everybody was just so great. It was such an honor to be a part, and to get I mean, when I walked off stage, Kevin Smith was like, "That was fucking badass," and I was like Kevin Smith just said that, so that was super cool. And here's the many more.
So you actually got to meet and talk to Dan and everybody after the panel then?
It was actually before. So we had a couple days of rehearsals prior to that. And so that was when I got more of a chance to chat with the cast, and everybody wanted to come up, and see the suit, and and people want photos and everything else. And I think we got some really great photos with the cast and with the director. And yeah, no, it was really cool to have those moments prior to the actual day to interact with everybody.
And so what did you think of the footage as well then?
I mean, narcissistically, you might be able to look on my phone and it's just all my whole like phone reel is just all footage that I found there for a while. No, it's epic. It's epic. Like, I mean, seeing seeing the father on stage and the whole, the big screen in the back was wild. It's wild, and I think to see reactions and I guess there was a little bit I heard from another producer friend up here. He was like, man, that clip went viral of you walking out and the clicking of the Predator sound. And I was like, he's like, I saw it before I even knew it was you. And then I was like, yeah, and that's really cool. Yeah, I really, it was just so elating. It was honestly, it's one of those reasons why you get into this industry is those moments where everything just hits right, and you create these. That's where the film industry is unlike, I think, any other industry. Is that there are moments of this incredible euphoria, and you almost forget about all the other stuff. You forget about, the 10 years, 20 years of rejections, the countless auditions that you've done and haven't gotten a call back. And this just gets you where like, I'll put another 10 years in like that, I'm ready to go. Let's get out there and play. And so, I'm incredibly grateful to Fox, to Disney, to Hulu, experiential CCE, like all the people who stuck up for me and were like, Joel is the guy you should use for this, because they could have used, they could have used a thousand other people. And I'm very honored to be a part of this. Like I said, the child, 11-year-old Joel just lost his shit that day. So, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Nice. And Jett, you didn't get to see any of the Hall H stuff?
Nope.
No.
Wah, wah.
Have you at least seen the trailer?
Of course.
Okay. Are you excited for Badlands?
I am excited. I think to kind of like, I know we were talking about it before we started, but Joel said like certain IPs are not what they're trying to make new things. And I do think that, this one looks and seems like, I think if the director and the team has passion and knows and loves the old IP, I think it really shows. And I think that, like an example would be like how Seth MacFarlane just redid The Naked Gun, and it seems like he really knows the material, the source material, the type of humor. Like he put the work in, and you can tell he loves it. And I think a lot of what Dan is doing is like he loves it, and that's why Prey was so amazing, is because you can tell that like his passion and his love for it is like he wants a good movie because he wants to watch that type of movie.
Right.
And I just think this looks like it's going to be like so epic and like kind of bring a new element in, but not really make it change the Predator in any way. Kind of add another layer that like fits with the lore to kind of make it even more like, how I was saying, how they just keep being like, yeah, we'll keep adding on because he's just so awesome. That's how I feel about the trailer.
So that's actually everything from us. Did you have anything you wanted to say, any anecdote or thoughts that we didn't give you the opportunity to share with any of our questions?
I go see the movie. November 8th. November 8th. It'll be in theaters. Thank you for having us. Thank you for reaching out. And I mean, it's amazing being able to like dork out with other fellow dorks. So I'm like, I hope that's not offensive. I'm like, I don't know what's offensive nowadays.
Badge of honor.
All right, cool. Yeah, and that's like I love shooting the shit about this kind of stuff, and again to be a part and to hopefully this is just the beginning of our trip with this IP. It's really an honor, and I hope the audience. I hope the movie hits the expectations that the audience has, and I hope everyone really enjoys it. I hope they come out and they see it and they want to do a lot more Predator stuff, and then Jett and I get a chance to continue to work on this.
Yeah, it was a dream come true, and it's just awesome to be able to work with such an amazing team, like Joel said, and to be able to be the voice of Joel, who's an incredible human. I could have been stuck with somebody who was not a great human, and it would have been a bummer of a weekend. And it was like an amazing weekend, and I am just honored. They could have picked anyone, and I'm just very thankful that me and my little cubby upstairs doing a British accent worked out, and I got to be a part of this. And go see the movie, because movie theaters need to be doing better, and movies are so amazing in theaters.
Mhm.
And it would be a shame, as somebody who also collects DVDs and real media, like, go to the movies, see things on the epic scale that The Predator should be seen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as a fan, like, one of my favorite things to do is some of these activations where it feels like you're just being thrown into this world in real life. And so thank you for the work that you two did, because I was like a super happy fan that day. Like, that was probably my favorite thing at Comic-Con, was that activation. So
That's awesome. That's huge. And I mean, that I've heard that from actually a couple people who were at Comic-Con this year, where they were like, wow, like, out of everything, you guys really brought it home. And that's, again, it just fills us full of joy. You know what I mean? Like, it gives us the gas to keep running in this career, which, it has its ups and downs. And so when the audience is so behind you, I think that's that's fuel for us to keep going out and keep trying to make good material for everybody.
And I'll watch jealously from across the pond on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, looking at all this cool stuff. No, it looked awesome. I really enjoyed the footage of it I saw as well. And it's been a pleasure to speak to you both today.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Again, truly a pleasure. Jett, I can't speak enough about how amazing her and Tanner were. Like, just, again, the team effort was phenomenal. And where I'm pumped that you guys get, like, Adam, I'm excited. I'm stoked you got a chance to see it and actually experience it firsthand. And yeah, thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate that.
before we let you go, though, are there any socials you want to plug where people can follow you or see more of what you do?
Yeah. You can follow me at Joel_Ezra_Hebner. A lot of projects coming up, a lot of fun stuff. You can see all the other suit work I've done, all the other. I'm like, if you're a fan of Call of Duty, I was the face of Call of Duty. So, there's a little caveat there. Yeah.
I play a lot of Call of Duty. So
yeah, so you play as me as in Advanced Warfare.
Oh, nice. That's one of my favorites.
I was fighting Kevin Spacey back before everybody else. All right, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's wild.
But yeah, Joel_Hebner, the Joel_Ezra Hebner is the socials. Follow. Yeah.
How about you, Jett?
My Instagram is Makeup by Jett with 2 T's, Jett. And there's a bunch of my work on it, some singing videos. My TikTok is Spooky Jett with 2 T's. A lot of cosplay. I do a ton of cosplay on there. I just made it into this competition for an Elvira cosplay, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Makeup by Jett, and my TikTok is Spooky Jett.
Get it there and vote for Jett. Elvira cosplay. Boom, right there.
All right, so we hope you enjoyed that insight into the experiences of Jett and Joel, with them helping to bring to life this amazing Predator activation. Again, we just really appreciate them coming on and being willing to talk to us about that experience.
Indeed, and head on over to Instagram, head on over to their web pages to find out more about them. Adam and I discovered he was the, as he told us, the Call of Duty guy, which was cool. A completely side tangent of Predator, but it was really cool getting to speak to them. Go check them out, find out more about what they do, and if you want to find out, if you come to the episode through Joel and Jett, and you want to find out more about us, we are on all the socials, all of them, apart from TikTok.
For now.
for now, yeah, we'll see. But you can find us on all those socials as AVP Galaxy or Alien versus Predator Galaxy. The hub of our activity is on avpgalaxy.net, which is where we have old school message boards living like we're still in the 2000s, and I'm never going to let that die. That's the best way to have fandom, right in that nice little period between clunky mail groups, and then chaotic and absolute disorganized chats that is Facebook groups and Discord. I like my organization of the 2000s message boards. Never letting go. But yeah. So if you want to come and join in with us, that's where you can find us. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so at Patreon at AVP Galaxy. You can also leave comments on the episodes on the podcast platforms that you're listening to us on. Spotify has an ability to comment on each episodes. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave us reviews. We very much appreciate that, and it does help our visibility as a podcast with other fans, and it helps towards our success, I suppose, as a podcast, in terms of official opportunities that we get to do.
That reminds me, Aaron, we got some feedback recently that was sent to our podcast email. Would you like me to read that out?
Certainly.
So this was by Magnus, and they say, I'm a fan of Alien 3. It's my favorite of, and this is in response to our, where we interviewed the people responsible for the Alien 3 Legacy Cut. And they say, I'm a fan of Alien 3. It's my favorite of all the Alien movies, the assembly cut. I listened to the episode about the Legacy edition of Alien 3, and even though I haven't watched it, I thought that it was an interesting episode. The TV show of Alien could be interesting. Unfortunately, I don't have the channel that will show it, but I hope that people will enjoy it and that the creators know how to get the characters right. I try to follow as many Alien podcasts as possible. So this one, the Xenomorphing podcast, and there was also one named Crew Expendable. As a fan of Alien 3, the assembly kit, I'm happy that you gave it some attention. So thank you for that feedback, Magnus. We really appreciate it. That was a fun episode. I quite enjoyed that discussion as well.
Indeed. And, just to echo what Magnus said there, I listen to Xenomorphing, I listen to Crew Expendable as well. So, we love all our other podcasters and we listen to them all as well ourselves. So go give those guys a listen. And of course, there's also Perfect Organism if you've somehow never listened to them as well, but you're listening to us. So go give everybody a listen to. We have a nice little alien podcasting community, I think. So thank you for reaching out, Magnus, and everybody. Yeah, thank you for listening to us. This has been Corporal Hicks
and RidgeTop.
Get into the chopper.